make safe places for women to come to that have issues at home. We have the Family Justice Center, which your readers should know about. It's very important. You can walk in there anonymously. You can walk in there for advice. If you feel like you're not ready yet to make a complaint or ready yet to move forward, they will advise you. And you can do it in whatever public or not public way that you want. But that's an important resource for your readers. We also want to make sure, and Mayor de Blasio has been an extremely large advocate, that when you make a complaint to the police, that your status as an immigrant is not the issue, right? So you want to be able to be safe to make a domestic violence complaint, not be hurt anymore, but not worry about the fact that in the house there may be undocumented immigrants and that concern. And we want to get rid of that concern. You should always be able to go to the police when someone is hurting you. You should always be able to go to the police when your kids and your family need help. And you should be able to go also when you want to try and have a safe refuge. And so we are working very closely with a lot of communities on that.
Do you have the phone number?
We can get that to you after, okay? Family Justice Center? Sir.
Can I?
Sir.
Thank you. My name is Lodi. I'm from Pakistan News. I think I saw you every ethnic community program. I can salute you. You are everywhere. Just a quick question. Did you make up your mind for 2021 mayor election?
Yeah, I'm trying to
This is the first question.
Trying to get through 2018.
Yes.
Hasn't been a great start with the lake,
Yeah.
but we're working on it.
The second question in my community, especially the Muslim community, is very important. 2 weeks before on Hillcrest School 160 something, my kids, mostly Bengali, Pakistani, and Muslim people, kids go there. There's two girls. They were wearing a scarf, and some kids kick and punch just without any reason. I really request you. I don't feel secure our kids in their future. Did you have anything for them so their future could be safe? This is the second question.
So we, when it comes to hate crimes, we've been very active and vocal in working with the police department. When the imam was killed a few years ago with his co-goer. I don't know if he was a co-imam or not, but so we've been very active on that. And one of the ideas that we've given communities that I can do, right, that's not a police sort of matter, is we can actually provide cameras in a lot of locations in order to be sort of to guard against some of the hate crimes. We try to work with the community to make sure that there's not a thought that we're trying to do anything but keep folks safe. I know that at the time in the community when the imam was killed, we had said that we would look into the cameras on that street. I'd have to follow up to figure out exactly where that is right now. But that's one of the ways that we can help provide some semblance of safety for folks. So if there's, like, for instance, a certain house of worship or school that people are moving back and forth and walking on that particular street a lot, we can talk about utilizing that in order to make people feel safer and in order to make people safer.
Hi. Hi. So there have been a lot of elected officials that have spoken out lately about the USPS and issues with mail delivery. Seems to be a borough-wide issue that a lot of residents are concerned about. What do you think needs to be done to address that?
It's really more a federal issue, and I know we've seen some, I think I've seen 1 or 2 letters to elected officials who were addressed to the Congress members, and I understand that. So I think that it's really federal. We're happy to get involved as a spokesperson, but there's no doubt people rely on the mail being stable and predictable. And when it's not, it just messes up the whole system. And so we'll work with the federal delegation in any way we possibly can. And one of the ways that we can actually be the most helpful is to try and keep track throughout the borough, right, of complaints that we get. So what would be helpful to me is if your readers would let us know when there is a particular area that is having problem with their mail. Because unlike, if you represent a district like in Congress or the Assembly or Senate, it's a smaller area. And so we could better able to keep track of that and notify the Congress members.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yes. And then, again, then.
Hi, Ms. Katz. Last year, your State of the Borough, you addressed immigration in light of the recent federal administration coming to power, and you were going to provide, along with other lawmakers, expanded resources for immigrants. With the administration right now heightening raids, targeting immigrants even more, with the recent events right now of ICE agents going to 7-Eleven, is your office going to provide even more resources, work with other lawmakers to protect immigrants in Queens?
So ICE agents not only going to 7-Eleven, going to the sex trafficking courthouse so we could doubly victimize the women who are on trial there. Going to schools to try and talk to a child without their parents, which no one's talking to my child without me there, right? It's like one of those very defensive things that you just can't allow. And I do think the administration's been great at being a sanctuary city, right? Which says if ICE agents show up at our schools, they will not be allowed in. If they show up at our hospitals, they won't be allowed in. If they show up like they did at sex trafficking court, they were not allowed in. And I think that's important. In the meantime, we've held several fairs and resource fairs where we actually have working attorneys who volunteer their time and their resources in order to answer any questions about immigration. We also do workshops to try and work with families on how to explain the media and the social media that's out there. How do you explain it to your child, right? Especially if the child is a DACA or a dreamer. It's one of those things that is a very popular, which is unfortunate, right? Because it's always a very popular resource at our fairs. And so we're glad to provide the service, sorry that we have to. So we've been working very closely with the community. We have an immigration task force here made up of dozens of not-for-profits that work directly with the communities throughout the borough. We also have a General Assembly, which is representatives from most of our communities. You probably couldn't do all, because it's about 120 countries that we're from here in Queens, but representatives of most of our communities throughout the borough. And so, the back and forth has been very helpful, I think, and efficient, right, in trying to figure out where the needs are for each individual community. Yeah, let me just...
Yes, sorry. As you know, the middle class are really in danger right now, and especially when the Trump administration has passed their own new tax laws. As we spoke earlier in last year, that will you kindly just tell us what is the scenario of the affordable housing initiative in the city, and especially in your borough, that we are going to benefit from out of it?
It's a big question with a lot of different parts, but affordable housing is clearly one of the key needs in the city of New York and in the borough of Queens. And since we are the biggest borough in the entire city of New York, we're 107 square acres. We are clearly in need of housing. We just went through a whole big affordable housing MIH-ZQA issue with the administration. Every new development now that has gone for a rezoning has to have a certain amount of affordable housing. That means about 30% or 25%, depending on how they do the project. So every new housing that needs an upzoning in order to accommodate it will require affordable housing. At the same time, we have a lot of organizations that are starting to build on their own affordable units. Not only are they building affordable units, they're also building senior housing, And they're also building grandchildren housing, which I find to be extremely helpful, right? In our communities, a lot of our grandparents are helping to raise our grandchildren so that our children can go out and work. And if that's not available to them, it is clearly economically very difficult, but it also hurts the family structure. So we have a lot of new housing developments going up with a large percentage of affordable. I think you'll see a lot of that coming to fruition over the next few years, but it's clearly desperately needed here. Go ahead.
I want to hear your view about transportation for Queens, not just on the bus service, but on the view that it's far-reaching and adequate for places like Queens.
You know, Queens is one of those places where many of our areas are transportation deserts, right? So part of that, there's a lot of reasons for that, and part of that is 1/3 of our borough is not covered by subways. 1/3 of our borough is covered by subways, I apologize, 2/3 is not. And then there's places like the Rockaways where it's covered by a subway that takes an hour to get there, right? So they have to go through Brooklyn, got to go through all these things on the A train. So transportation is clearly a problem here. The MTA, there are so many issues with the MTA. I know that Pat Foy at this point is the new head of it over the last few months, and Joe Loda is on the board and chair of that. They are trying desperately, I think, to figure out the right next steps for the MTA. Part of it is that, you know, in Queens, our bus service, which doesn't historically get as much attention, is almost more crucial to a lot of our neighborhoods than our subways, because 2/3, you know, the whole borough is covered by buses. 1/3 is covered by subways. There's a lot of new ideas that have come up over the last few years. One is the BQX, which I support in theory. I think that it's a good idea to have boroughs that are connected. I think it's a good idea to make sure that we have alternate ways of transportation, to make sure that we're cross-pollinating in our boroughs. In Brooklyn, also in Queens, not only just Manhattan and Queens, which always has been the priority. I think the ferry, that it's permanent, has been a great boon to a lot of areas. It's been a great thing, especially I believe, at least for the Rockaways, right? Because unlike the way the ferry was before, which was just the Rockaways and Manhattan, now that ferry is part of a 5-borough plan. So that ferry line or that ferry leg can't be destroyed immediately, right? The next mayor can't come in and say, you know what, I'm taking out this leg of the Rockaway ferry because I can, right? And because nothing else is affected. Now the entire system is affected. So I think that those are some issues that have come up. I know that the Rockaways would like alternate transportation, and I get that too.
Anyway.
Right. But Queens is a problem, and it's always, you know, part of the problem is that we also drive a lot. So we're hoping that the bike lanes will be helpful in making sure that people are using transportation in that way. We also have other bike companies that are trying to come into Queens. We've been also meeting with them to see whether or not they're appropriate in other areas that maybe the city bike may not be. Like the Rockaways. Right, so, you know, I haven't taken a position on either one, which has managed to make both angry at me. Queensway, the question was Queensway versus the Rockaway Beach line, which I don't think that's what it's called anymore, but whatever. You know, I have not looked. Both have their assets, and the third option is just to leave it the way it is now. The question is whether when you have Queensway, 3.5 miles or a few miles of park that is redone with new staff, new police presence, new safety concerns, new park workers, all of that goes with it, would that be a benefit to the borough? And I think that we're all still talking about how that would benefit or not. As far as the Rockaway Beach line, you know, I always said I thought that if we start talking about the Rockaway Beach line heavily, then other options, people would say, let's just wait for that, right? But now we have the ferry. So I think now it's time to probably figure out seriously which direction to go. Question?
The
looking very tired.
I'm a little, no, it's okay. We're trying to save our voice for Friday too, because you know Friday I have to be able to boom.
So, this is not my question. My question is in October, the Mayor de Blasio told in the town meeting that he would place a monument in the Captain Chile Park, Jamaica, in memory of in the mother language, martyrs in Bangladesh. Do you have any idea that what is the position of that monument setting up?
So we have already. I didn't know you made that announcement. We've already put $2 million. Right. So we've already put $2 million into a memorial for mother language. I'm getting Richard because he was the one that was working on it. They were trying to figure out exactly the location, because I know this shocks you, but not everyone always agrees on the locations of things in a borough that is prideful of their neighborhood by neighborhood heritage. So we put the money in. Now it's just a matter of finalizing the location. And I know one of my staff members has been working on that. And I'm very proud of that. It's actually one of the first events I went to as a candidate for borough president, was the mother language event. I think it was the Jamaica Bangladesh Society. Yeah. And I have a voice probably for 2 more.
He told that it would be placed in Captain Chile Park.
That may be where we're planning on putting it, and that's why he said that. So we're going to find out right now. But I'm pretty sure that's where we already intended. I mean, I'm glad he announced it, but I'm pretty sure that's where we intended on putting it. And I think that there's a lot of agreement on that at this point. Yeah, and also the communities, right? There's different Bangladesh communities all around the borough, right? So we want to make sure that everyone's in
Not only
agreement.
for the mother's community, that's international mother language and
International.
by the United Nations.
Yep. There was others that, hi.
Can you update us where we are with the New York State Pavilion
So
project?
the New York State Pavilion has $14 million in it right now to light it up. We have a bid out on the street, if I'm not mistaken, to get the bids back for the lighting. I am told that within a year and a half, it should be lit up. In addition to that, the stairs will be built. The electricity in the towers will be placed. But the stairs have to be, it's what came first, right? The stairs have to be done in order to reach the location for the electricity, in order to be able to light up the tower, right? So that's where we are right now. Whether or not the tent of tomorrow will be able, my dream was to leave office with the tent of tomorrow being able to be utilized as an outdoor theater. I think we might have to wait for the next borough president. Hopefully you don't have to wait for one of my sons to be borough president. They're 6 years old right now. But that was my ultimate dream. But at the end of it, very quickly, we're going to have the Queens Museum, the Unisphere, and the New York State Pavilion lit up. Just someone, and then I'll come back. China Press?
Hi, Borough President, how are you? So my question is that I found in the winter there's a lot of homeless people dying on the streets, and there was an accident in Flushing yesterday. So she has been living under the Long Island Railroad for a year, and she had a stroke and almost dying. So regarding the homeless issue, so what do you think you can do on the borough level to help relieve the situation?
Right now there's been a lot of talk over the last year or two. Hold on one second. Richard, Captain Tully, right, for the mother language?
Captain Tully Park, yes.
It's already agreed upon?
Yes, we are currently discussing the design for a commemorative garden.
At Captain Tully. Okay?
Yep.
Now the mayor had announced it at his town hall meeting. Is he also putting funds into it?
As of right now, that is not known.
Right.
We are still discussing that.
We're still discussing that. It means we're still asking. That's what it's code language. So over the last year, a lot has happened on homeless services in the city of New York. One of the things that has happened is the mayor has come out with a 5-year plan to combat homelessness throughout the city of New York. The problem right now is catch-up, right? So what happens is the Department of Homeless Services gets people that show up or call in. They need a place to live for the night. So what the city does is they go to a hotel and they rent rooms, right? And then, because of a lot of work of elected officials, including my borough board here at Queens, there is now a notification process by which the city in a timely fashion has to notify elected officials of when those rooms are rented. But in an emergency, you can't always do it beforehand. The mayor's ultimate plan is to make sure that we have shelters within 5 years that are permanent structures. I think we all want to take care of folks that need an extra hand, right? And make sure that not only are we providing shelter, but we're also providing a way out, right? Providing the resources for job training, for any counseling that may be needed, for permanent homes that people would like to live in, to make sure that the children of homeless are not only all of a sudden uprooted by not having homes, but now transferred across the city of New York to a new school with new people that they've never met in a new neighborhood they've never been in, right? So the plan is a good one, but the implementation, I think, is going to be quite hefty. It is to build permanent structures so that we're not housing folks from other areas, but we're housing folks from the community, so that you're near your parents, so that you're near your grandparents, so that you're in a school that you're familiar with if you're a child, so that if your family is helping you with your kids, they're still there to help you, so that if you are nursing a sick parent, you're able to still nurse that parent because you're in the same community that you were in. That's going to take a few years, but I think it's on its way.
Just recently, a young Guyanese girl was killed by her husband in Queens. And she had reported many times about this assault and tried to get some help. I know you try to do a lot that you can, but it seemed to me that when these calls are made to the precinct, you have to be hurt before someone takes action. So you mentioned a family justice center, yes, which you don't need papers or whatever it is. We need to get that out to the community, because that could have been something that she could have probably done and get away from it. So I thank you. I just wanted to bring that to your attention and ask how you could help to move it forward, because there's so many of these incidents that are happening in our community, but they seem to be swept under the rug. Thank you, Madam President, once again for all of your information.
So everyone at this table can be very helpful in getting the word out. It's the Family Justice Center. The phone number is 718-575-4545, 575-4545. It is, for Queens, the Family Justice Center is right next door to the DA's office, District Attorney's office, down the block on Queens Boulevard.
Do you mind if you just repeat the number again, please?
718.
I haven't seen a BlackBerry in a few years.
718-575-4545.
It might be worth it to hook up, Sharon, it might be worth it to hook up some of the local press, with the PR people at the Family Justice Center, so that they can actually maybe write a story about it to get the word out. Right? Would that be helpful, I think? So it's more than just a phone number. And they can tell you exactly the services a lot better than I can. Okay? So I appreciate everyone taking the time to come in here today. I hope it was a worthwhile venture. We look forward to our partnership, as we always do, with all of you sitting at the table. And I want to give you a personal thank you for, again, delivering the information inside of people's homes that really I would have no way of getting to the community. So I thank you for all the work and the public service that you all do. I'll see you Friday.
ITV, Call of Peace.